Here it is. It's Wednesday. It's been a couple of Wednesdays since we've jumped on screen.
Yeah, where you been?
I know. We've been. And we're also sorry we're a little late for anybody who's joining. We had some technical issues, which of course always happens.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. But today, so we are Dave and Laura Butler. In a second, I will play a little intro about us. But today, we're going to be talking about this idea of career path and utilizing a tool that we use called the Birkman method. And we will discuss that shortly. But for the moment, for those of you who may not know us, I wanted to play a little intro about us, and we will be right back.
We're in it together. We're in it together. If you get off track, I got your back. Remember. Oh yeah, we're in this together.
Wow, isn't that nice?
Yeah, so I love utilizing our friend Elliot Lewis's music because we are in this together, which is always the approach that we take. And I think it's also telling because it discusses the various ways that we have helped people over the years. So it could be individuals, like what we're mainly talking about today. It could be teams. And it could be overall helping the organization with culture. So I think, Dave, why don't you kick us off around this whole idea of career? Well, why don't you first talk about why the Birkman? I mean, every time before I let you talk, I'll talk. But every time we want to jump in and talk about the Birkman, we oftentimes hesitate because it's the best kept secret. And people will go, Brickman, that Macman, what is that thing? And I think what also happens is that people have their own tool of choice, understandably. So it's hard to define and get our heads around why this one. So why don't you take it from there?
Okay, I'm happy to. Over the 30 years where I've been using the Birkman, I've talked about it every day of my life. So I'm used to talking about it. I think one of the funniest ones is somebody called it the Boinkman one time. So it's called the Birkman. But the thing that's so special about the Birkman is right in that opening piece. I love that. It says, the passion, awaken the passion of the individual. This is our mission. And Birkman is the only tool that I'm aware of that really focuses in on two things: the passion and the motivator, the needs that people have. And I think one of the most important things in my life has always been to try and determine what the passion is. What's the purpose? What are you here for? What are you looking for? What do you want? Where's the satisfaction? Where, after all is said and done, and you work a lifetime and you look back at it, did you do what you were passionate about? Because if you're not, then what's the point?
Right.
I mean, I'm glad you made a living at it, but the passion is what makes it really tick.
Right.
I think for me, the Birkman is about passion. It's certainly about style and strength and all those things that help you to, get things done. But if you can't understand what your passion is, and more importantly, the needs, which is, as far as I know, Birkman is the only tool that identifies the needs, the preferences, the environmental factors that are important to me to be satisfied and to be happy. If you don't have that, then I don't see what the point is.
Well, and the other thing is if you don't know what your needs are, and when you see what can be a contrast between what your passion and strengths are with what your needs are,
Right.
then it's kind of shooting in the dark with trying to figure out what that's all about. And for example, in my case, my strength is what's called in Birkman very green. So outgoing, lead workshops, facilitate, build relationships, talk. But my need, so people, because you don't see your need, And we don't know sometimes. So therefore, how do others know? So needs are most hidden, whereas our strengths are seen. So if people see me in my green, they're going to assume, well, she needs more of that green stuff.
More talking.
You couldn't be more wrong. What I need, and I found out through taking this many years ago, this assessment, I need time alone. I need to recharge. I need to, plug into the wall somewhere and fill the tank. And without that, and it doesn't have to be for a day. I mean, it could be 15 minutes. Any needs. If you're what's called a red need, you're going to need action. You're going to need movement. If you're a blue need, like me, you need time is the key word to think, to be by yourself, to energize with yourself again.
Right.
Yellow would be the need, would be for more data, more clarity, more explanation.
Rules.
Yeah.
Rules. Structure.
And green need, which is contrary to my strength, green need, which Dave is building more relationships. So, and connecting with people. So for, the idea of this program that we have coming up is because we created it. It's already out there. It's something that we have online, and we hope that people utilize it. We call it a DIY, do it yourself program, because I found over the years that several times people like to work through things on their own. Now, maybe that's a blue thing. They'd rather, other colors may want to connect with somebody, which we have the option to do that as well. But the reason that we decided to offer this and create this is I've been reading a lot lately that over the COVID situation that we've all just been trying to come to the surface,
Survived
again and survive. It was called the Great Resignation. And now the focus is on something called the Great Retraining. And I think that's a really interesting approach to what we're all going through. And what happened, what I've read about this retraining is that through COVID, as people were trying to survive and trying to figure out what my career journey may be, they selectively chose online courses, things to try out. And some people said, gee, I wish I never left my job because I pretty much was doing what I really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So you'll find another one. That's our take on it. But the idea of finding your career path, I think, is what's so important, because so we have a job. Kudos, great, that's wonderful. But what's the career passion? Right.
So many people over the years that I've worked with, they come to me and they say, well, I'm an engineer. I like being an engineer. I'm very good at being an engineer, but I'm unhappy. What's wrong with me? And when they take the Birkman, they suddenly realize that that's not really what they wanted to be growing up. One instance, I have the guy discovered that he wanted to be a banjo player, but he was an engineer. And what's engineering got to do with a banjo player? Well, music and engineering, very similar. Got a lot to do with composing, putting things together, building things. But just by the simple act of finding out that it's not an engineering job that he's looking for, he went and found a job at a radio station. Much happier. When your passion is connected, and you see that thing in the distance that says, this is what I want, where I'm going to go, nothing can stop you.
Well, for those who may not know the Birkman, let's just give you a little background and why we use it. The validity, over 75 years, Dr. Roger Birkman is the namesake of the organization. And he created needs as a result of being an Air Force pilot in World War II. And he found when he was doing his research that some pilots were able to adjust very quickly to struggles ahead and others not. So what was the magic sauce? What was the secret sauce that was enabling or not for them to succeed?
Correct.
But we've used this. I was working with a team last week developing leaders. We assume that somebody has a leadership title, that they're a leader. Not so. So if we have insights into what motivates the leader, how they can better manage their teams, then
Manage themselves.
yeah, and be a lot more successful with the coaching. And that's what we do. We do one-on-one and team coaching to improve the cultural dynamics,
Right.
teamwork.
Right.
And so what we're talking about mainly today is the whole idea of exploring careers.
Correct.
What is that career path?
Yeah. And we've used it, and I've used quite a bit lately. I've used the Birkman to help select the talent. There was one case just recently where somebody got hired and they were obviously in the wrong job. They'd been in the wrong job for a long time and it wasn't working out. And they took the Birkman and I said, wait a minute, this guy's in the wrong job. But he was a really good, good worker, very talented, very dedicated. So we moved him to the other job. Now he's happy as all get out.
Yeah.
Everything's going well for him.
Right.
Sometimes it's a slight adjustment.
Well, and the other thing that has really appealed to people is this whole concept of diversity of thought, because we can have diversity chats all day long
Right.
about gender, about race, about pay gaps, all sorts of things. But to really get an understanding of all of those things, we need to have that diversity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then certainly overall increasing sales and productivity.
Well, sure.
So this is why, but I think for me, not only the results, and as Dr. Birkman said, the gift of giving people needs, it's knowing that it's valid. The support team at Birkman headquarters in Houston is constantly working to make sure the algorithms are aligned, because what I think is so disappointing for people, there are other assessments that have all sorts of varieties of the same flavor. So what good is that if you don't have something that's reliable and valid?
Right, right. And quite a bit of research done with the Birkman as well. The National Science Foundation was one of them that did a long range study with the Birkman, and its validity and its reliability was pretty obvious.
Well, and what we encourage people to do, whether you're in an organization or individually, is always go through what your individual development plan process is, and always be planning, always be growing, always be looking for how you can select the next step, which starts with creating that plan. It could be taking a look at your current role or what you have done if you're not in a role at the moment that got you to where you are now and what you're seeking. Number two would be, what's the future? How are you looking at where you want to go next? Are you having the right conversations? Are you connecting in the right ways with that strategic network?
Right. Connecting your dots.
Right. And I think most importantly, because if you're not doing this, the other two won't matter. How are you doing with your health and well-being?
Right.
Do you need help with having those conversations and assessing where you're at? How do you put a plan in place to help you with that next health and well-being journey?
Yeah. What's the point of getting there if you can't enjoy it?
That's right. And for each category, though, to be able to take a look at what are your goals of these three? What are your goals? What competencies do you have and are you striving for? What are the actions? What are the deadlines? And I always filter and sprinkle on top of each one that strategic network, because several times people have a network, but they don't engage it, enliven it, tap into it strategically.
Right. They take it for granted. They don't really work it. They don't follow up with it, and they don't keep it alive.
Exactly. And this is not expected for anybody to be able to read this, but one thing we've done recently is to create a quiz that gives you a sense of some of these creative descriptors of what a career path could be. In the Birkman, you get something that looks like this, but with much further in-depth description of each of these. But there are 18 categories in the job families, and each one, so this is a rough, kind of a scatter look of where this particular John Q. Public lands, and the highest is this one right here, which I can't read either.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. It just shows you that there is a high, a low, what you best match with, that gives you the chance to pursue further and maybe give you some insights that you haven't thought about before.
Well,
The
these job families are the 18 categories of at the Bureau of Labor Statistics at the Department
Right.
of Labor. And the Birkman is the only assessment that I'm aware of that ties directly to that Bureau of Labor Statistics. So
Yeah, and
it
I
gives
think
you a lot of research opportunities.
it's really helpful because you can select which one seems to be the highest, or which
Right.
a few of them, and go to My Next Move, it's called, that's connected to the U.S. Department of Labor website.
Mhm.
And it will give you what the categories are, what the job role description is, what the salary may be, what the location is. So I think this DIY, if it may be not for you, but if it's for somebody who is in career transition, or a student who's just graduated or about to graduate, either high school or college, and still may not be clear about the journey, this would be a great program for them. But on with the quiz, it will give you an answer to one of these five. Are you creative, visionary? Which one were you, by the way, when you took it?
Empathic leader, connector.
Huh. I'm creative, visionary, or a strategic leader. That could be an interesting direction out of the quiz.
I was not technical expert, that's for sure.
Empathetic connector, entrepreneurial innovator. I think when I took it a couple of times, I was between that one and the creative.
Yeah.
Not technical expert. That did not land in my camp at all.
Nope.
But this is whoops, let me X that one out. But this is the program, and it's what we would recommend is that you can go to this link, go.worklife.com/direction. It will take you right to the sales page with all the information that you need. And this navigating your career path with true directions is led by Dave and myself, along with videos in terms of supporting people with the Birkman report, and also with a work-life career workbook that's specifically created by us. Mm-hmm. I will also say, for those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for joining us after the event, and please leave any comments and any questions as with the people who are live. And thank you as always. Anything you wanted to add, Dave, about the program itself, or anything?
No, I would just encourage people to take advantage of this. I mean, let's get on the right path, get on the right track, and head in the right direction. You never can tell when there's going to be changes in your life. Never can tell when there's going to be changes in the industry. But if you know where you're going, you know what turns you on, what your path is supposed to be, you'll always come out ahead of the game.
Exactly. Well, it's the true direction. So we will close with a short clip of our friend Elliot Lewis. And thank you again for listening and for joining. See you next time.